Lone Rider here, and I'm about to unbox my very first sharp sword. Now, I should state that I've had antique swords in the past, mostly 18th and 19th century sabers. The only one I still have is a sword from the either late 1700s or early 1800s, which is in pretty bad shape. But I have had in the past several 19th century sabers that were in good enough condition they were usable. But I never really cut anything with them. So this is my very first sharp sword. It's a reproduction katana made by Musashi. Now, I should state that these aren't traditional Japanese katana in the sense of, it's not made with tamahagari or whatever the steel is called. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation. Basically sand iron ore that's combined with charcoal to create carbon steel and then hammered and folded to remove the impurities, and then differentially hardened. This is actually it's made out of 1045 carbon steel, so basically the most basic grade of carbon steel that you'd actually use for a sword. And I got this from Cult of Athena. It's one of the inexpensive models offered by Musashi, so it's actually through hardened. It's not differentially tempered. But anyway, let's get on with this. I'm so psyched. I've been waiting for this for 3 days. Oh yeah, there we go. This is the Cult of Athena sticker. Actually, it is. I just said that, because like it's a decal, but actually, I think this is an actual sticker that you could like put on the window of your car or something. I'm gonna save that. That's pretty cool. All right, let's see how we open this up. It looks to me. Okay, so this is just one box on top of another box, and there's it's taped shut. All right, so get my little CRKT squid. This was my EDC knife before I discovered the Ontario Rat 2, and it's something I sometimes still carry because it's just so tiny and handy. It's got a squat little 2-inch blade. Anyway, this isn't about the knife. This is about the sword. And I've been waiting for this for, like I said, for 3 days, but that's not the entire story. I actually, I've been waiting for it for a little bit longer than that because I've been into swords ever since I was a kid, and I've been practicing longsword for a while now at the local HEMA club, but I have a blunt longsword. I don't have a sharp. And the story behind this was, I've always thought katanas were kind of cool. I'm kind of weird like that. Most HEMA people, there's a divide between East and West. And usually if you like Western swords, medieval or Renaissance swords, the stuff that you normally do in HEMA, like longsword or sword and buckler, that type of thing, you usually don't like katanas. I'm kind of unusual in that regard. I've always thought katanas were cool even before I got into HEMA. I just don't buy into all the fanboy BS about how, it can cut through a tank and all that crap. But I did think that they were kind of cool. So let's take a look at this. I've also never purchased anything online before. And Cult of Athena was a website that I went to after. Literally, I hem and hawed for like 6 months. And I got to say, Scalagrim made the difference. Honestly, his YouTube channel, he's bought so much stuff from Cult of Athena, and he seems to have good things to say about them. So anyway, here we go. I'm really psyched. I've never bought a sword online before, and, I'm just interested to see what it looks like. So, okay, it looks like this is the handle end. I feel the tsuba. That's the word for the guard. You're going to have to bear with me here because I'm actually not a practitioner of Iaido or Kenjutsu or any other school of Japanese swordsmanship. Like I said, I do longsword. but I wanted something sharp to cut with, and the katana is, well, it's a two-handed saber, so I figured I'd be practicing some of the basic mechanics in terms of my interface with the weapon. You know, you still get that two-handed grip, the push and pull. Obviously, it's a very different type of blade, thickness, geometry, tempering, etc. But nevertheless, the cheapest of these was a lot cheaper than the cheapest of the long swords. And like I said, since I'm kind of a katana fan anyway, I figured, what the hell? Let me go with it. So let me pick up some of these little styrofoam thingies and brush them off. Okay. So here we go. The sword is in a thin cotton, black cotton bag with a little tie to secure the end. And let's take it out and see what we have. Oh, wow. Oh, this is cool. Wow. Okay. All right. I mean, first impression, the saya, which is the sheath, does feel, I don't know what I expected. It doesn't have that like gorgeous luster that you see in pictures, but it is pretty cool. It's very smooth. It's very slick. It has a definite shiny touch to it. The wrapping here, I don't know the name for that. Again, I'm not a Japanese sword practitioner, but that appears to be the same material that you would make your shoelaces out of. And of course, this here is normally made out of buffalo horn or something. This feels like it's either plastic or just wood. I don't know. But let's take a look. The grip here, now this is supposed to be imitation raised skin. It clearly looks plasticky, but at least you get the effect of the contrasting color with the ito, the wrap. And it does have the nodule texture. So, and the whole point of the hilt design of a katana is that you can keep the blade and change the handle. So presumably if I decided to rewrap the handle or do something different, I could always change it up. You push these two pegs out, one from one side, one from the other, and you can take it out. And here we have the discard. This actually looked very insubstantial on the website, but you can see it's quite thick, and that's apparently either made of steel or iron. I think the website said steel, but let's take a look. Now, I'm going to be very careful because this is apparently comes sharpened. I didn't select Cult of Athena's sharpening service, but apparently the sword does come sharpened. So let me put this aside. I'm making a mess here. It's like I feel like a kid on Christmas, but like I said, I've been waiting 3 days for this, and it's really been longer than that. It's been months since I started investigating. So, all right, let's moment of truth. All right. We actually have a nice cap on the end of the saya, a metal cap. There's nothing on the bottom. I forget what the term is for that, but sometimes there's like a horn plate or something on the bottom to protect it. There's nothing there, but you have this metal ferrule on the top. You'll notice right away there's enough clearance around the metal ferrule that the sword doesn't contact with the metal ferrule when it's going into the saya, into the scabbard. That there's wood visible there. So it's not entirely symmetrical, but let's be clear. This was a $60 sword. It was like $59.99. All right, so here we have the blade, and I have to say this is heavier than I thought. Like I said, I've handled antique sabers, and the katana is essentially a two-handed, short, thick saber with a minimal guard. The guard, the suba, feels fairly sturdy here. I don't feel any give in this. That's good. You're not supposed to touch the edge, but let me just try and take a piece of paper here, just to get an idea of how sharp this is. It's supposed to be sharp. I didn't select the sharpening service because they said it comes sharpened, so let's give it a try. Well, it's okay. So it does cut. I I wouldn't want to. I mean, it's not like razor sharp. Hold on a sec. You know what? I wouldn't want to get hit with that. In fact, here we have the packaging. Let's just to give an idea, do a push cut here. Okay, so yeah, I mean it's sharp. It's just not. Ooh, there we go. I know you're not supposed to use the sword bag, but this came. I think there was a thin coat of oil on there, or it's just dirty. I don't know. But yeah. So the blade is straight. I mean, this is pretty cool. Like I said, I've never had a sharp sword before. And this isn't a traditional, the haman on the blade, or haman, however you say it, the temper line. What they would do with a traditional katana or Japanese blade is they would basically cover the blade with clay except for the edge. And then they would temper it. And that gave you what was called differential hardening. So the spine of the blade, the back of the blade, would be a different hardness than the front. This is apparently just through hardened and straight tempered. But you do have the appearance of a hammond. I think that's just etched on there. Excuse me. I mean, I can see markings where it's been, it looks like brushed on there with, like a wire wheel or something. But so it doesn't have a true hammond, but it is a, apparently a functional blade. 1045, like I said, is like the minimum of what you'd want for carbon steel for a sword. It's not really a high carbon steel. It's more like a medium carbon steel. They do make differentially hardened Musashis, and they tend to be 1060 or a combination of steels. Like I know they do a so-called Damascus. Of course, it's actually just pattern welded. It's basically folded. But everybody, for some reason, calls pattern welding Damascus. I'm not sure why. You even see that with, they'll do gun barrels and stuff, and they'll call it Damascus, but it's not. It's pattern welded. They do a pattern welded blade where they use 1045 and 1060, and they layer the two. So, but this is, like I said, just straight 1045. I basically wanted something for light cutting, like water bottles and whatnot. I've never had a sharp sword before, so this is going to be interesting, and we'll see what happens. I don't intend to do any kind of abusive tests or whack trees or do anything crazy with it, because my assumption is the blade is not all that durable compared to, let's say, my longsword, which, well, my longsword's a blunt, so I'm not sure that's a fair comparison, but the longsword, if you bend it, it returns to shape. This won't do that. I'm pretty sure if I bend this, it'll stay bent. Now, to be fair, a traditionally made Japanese katana that was intended as a sidearm for actual samurai combat would also stay bent, but for a little bit different reasons. Basically because it was differentially hardened. One could argue that even, middling carbon steel, as far as modern steel goes, is better than the tamahagani that they used in Japan, because basically everything about the making of a traditional katana was dictated by the fact that they were using limited quantities and qualities of steel. It's what happens on an island. Resources are expensive. But and you could say the same thing about medieval swords. I mean, if you were to compare the steel used in a sword from the 1200s or something, by like a knight, to modern steel, you'd find that the modern steel, will have less inclusions and less imperfections and so forth. So, the workmanship on this isn't anything near what you'd get in a traditional katana. It's very crude by comparison. But on one hand, what do you want for $60? And on the other hand, the blade itself might not necessarily be all that bad compared to traditionally made blades. Obviously, the blades are of higher finish along with everything else, but when you consider the quality difference between modern steel and ancient and medieval steels, not just in Europe but in Japan as well. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a Japanese sword expert, but I was really psyched to open this, and so this is my very first sharp sword. Hopefully the first in a long line of sharp swords. And I do want to comment on one thing. I did remember, I think it was Scalagrim, remarking that the Manuki on the sword felt uncomfortable under the fingers. Now, of course, like most people, I'm assuming he's right-handed. I'm left-handed. So my lead hand goes here. And the Manuki, which is this cast metal symbol here, this one looks like some kind of a dragon or something. Typically, there's one on one side and one on the other. And the way they're oriented is so that if you were using it right-handed, your fingers of your lead and your bottom hand, the fingertips would be on the Manuki. Now, I don't know if that's to, orient edge alignment or to help with the grip or just a tradition thing. But people, including Scalagrim, have commented that it feels uncomfortable or, a bit of a nuisance under the fingers. It would be more comfortable if it was under the palm. Well, because I'm left-handed, the way I hold it is under the palm. And actually, it doesn't feel uncomfortable at all. When you grip the handle, because of the diameter of the handle and the shape, it's ovoid in cross-section, and it's a certain width, that part of your palm is kind of raised away from the handle anyway. It's not really sitting flush with it. So, actually, the fact that the Manuki is there is not a problem for me because I'm holding the sword left-handed. So, anyway, that's my take on this. What I think is a pretty cool entry-level sword from Musashi. And like I said, it's nothing to write home about, but it's my very first sharp sword, and hopefully this will be the first of many. So I intend to take it outside and try cutting something, and see what happens. Lone Rider.